everyone, it's me, E, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about K-pop and my favorite boy group, SHINee. In today's art piece, you'll see I'm drawing Key from SHINee. I did it traditionally. I drew it by hand first, and then I took it into my iPad Procreate program to finish it off because some of the proportions didn't seem right, so I fixed it a little bit. It's still not perfect, but it's like, how can you capture Key's beauty exactly anyway? Anyway, I was introduced to K-pop by a high school friend in the 9th grade, so this would have been 2009. She shared several Japanese and Korean music videos with me on my Facebook page back in the days when communicating on Facebook involved writing on each other's walls back and forth. In those music videos, along with other groups, there were SHINee, TVXQ, and Super Junior. But those three groups stood out the most, especially SHINee. At that time, SHINee had released their first album, Repackage, and within a week, I had fallen totally in love with SHINee and with K-pop, and I was totally consumed. In those early days, there wasn't really an easy or reliable way for international fans to really engage, so I bought their album off eBay, and I waited weeks for it to arrive. I also went on to collect TVXQ's album, Neurotic, and Sorry Sorry from Super Junior. I eagerly awaited each SHINee comeback after that, my first being Juliet. At the time, I recall finding the concept and styling kind of odd, but within a year, colored skinny jeans were a regular staple of my wardrobe. I kept up with other groups' releases. I remember groups like Beast, which have since renamed themselves Highlight, In Black, U-Kiss, FCuz, or Focus, I think is how you're supposed to pronounce that. And I enjoyed a song or two from each of those groups, but each group kind of faded away to me, while SHINee, Super Junior, and TVXQ remained as my biggest infatuations. Big Bang was notable, and I still follow their releases. Of course, they haven't released anything in a while. I'm also interested to know that 2PM, which is another Gen 2 group, is planning to have a comeback sometime this year. Generation 2 of K-pop was my era of K-pop, and it wasn't just the boy groups either. I also enjoyed Girls' Generation, FX, and 2NE1, but it would be kind of a lie to say that romantic fantasy and the projection of my own desires played no part in my enjoyment of K-pop. K-pop stars are attractive, of course. I considered factors such as who has the most kissable lips, the most defined abs, the most perfect skin. So the guy groups were my favorite. Because of this, unfortunately, my interest in K-pop kind of waned when I went off to college and met my husband. I no longer needed a fantasy or an ideal. I had fulfillment in real life. I stayed devoted to SHINee, especially through their Everybody release in 2013. Then, before they came back with View in 2015, I got married. I was aware of Married to the Music and One of One, but I didn't wait for music video releases with impatient, passionate fervor anymore. I didn't watch every interview or TV appearance. I watched the music videos and I eventually bought the albums, but it really wasn't the same. Then in December of 2017, I think we were all shocked to find that SHINee's lead singer, Jonghyun, had left us. I spent 3 days grieving and crying for a person I had never met, and feeling guilty for not being a better fan and appreciating him enough while he was still here. I hated that I hadn't paid attention to his solo work. It was great, of course. I wish I could go back and relive the days when SHINee was 5, truly. They are still 5 in the sense that Jonghyun is present in everything they do in small, almost imperceptible ways, but it'll never be the same. That's why when they decided to come back in 2018 with a concert and a new album, I was surprised. They could have walked away and nobody would blame them. I think the fans almost kind of expected it. By then, it had been almost 10 years since they had debuted, and most K-pop groups dissolved by then. But they showed how strong they are and how committed they are to each other and to SHINee as a name. So I watched along with everyone else as they showed us that they can do it. They can continue as a 4-member group. And while we still all feel the loss, they sound as though nothing is missing. SHINee is still complete. 2018's The Story of Light album was great, with classic SHINee sound and innovation. SHINee was created as an experimental contemporary group. They have done R&B, EDM, dubstep, etc., and they nail it each time. I think through their 2018 promotions, I fell back in love with them, but in a new way. It's no longer a matter of romantic fantasy for me. I feel like I truly appreciate who they are, their musicality, professionalism, their humor, their teamwork, and what of their personalities they choose to show us. I may not be as devoted or obsessive as a fan, but I think I'm a better fan. Of course, it was a bittersweet time. Just as my love for SHINee was reignited in a fresh way, it was time for mandatory military enlistment. For almost 3 years, we have waited for their return. Slowly but surely, Onu, Key, and Minho were discharged from the military, and on January 1st, 2021, SM announced SHINee's comeback would be coming soon. I re-engaged, began listening to their whole discography in preparation, including some of the solo tracks that I hadn't heard before. I enjoyed the experience. Online hype began to build as SHINee members, especially Taemin, teased their return. SM released concept photos and clips ahead of the comeback. It was maybe SHINee's most thoroughly promoted return. On February 22nd, SHINee's 7th studio album, Don't Call Me, dropped, along with the music video. Within a day, the music video reached 10 million views, and the album entered the charts. It seemed like a successful comeback. But some longtime fans have expressed disappointment. They say that the title track, Don't Call Me, doesn't, quote-unquote, sound like SHINee, and they feel that SHINee is trying to just, quote-unquote, follow the trends and imitate a 4th-gen sound. While I agreed that Don't Call Me seems like a new or different type of song for SHINee, I don't think it lacks that classic SHINee sound at all. Their voices in and of themselves are distinct and unique in the K-pop space. It has a hip-hop sound to some extent, but the harmonies and the ad-libs, the piano part, well, they're all 100% SHINee. Part of the very essence of SHINee is experimentation. If it sounded like all their other albums before, which are already diverse anyway, it wouldn't seem very SHINee-like to me. SHINee fans can be kind of snobbish. While acknowledging that SHINee is not the most popular or famous K-pop group, Shawwalls say that none compare vocally, none have as complex choreo, none sound as good live, none are as talented. And I do agree with that assessment, but I think that the snobbery has turned into sort of an arrogance. For one thing, I think we all need to acknowledge that SHINee, a 13-year-old group at this point, needs to stay relevant in this 4th generation of K-pop, or else they won't be around for the next. And they have always been able to do that thus far. For another thing, we as fans don't get to define what the quote-unquote SHINee sound is. Only SHINee can decide that. If they decide to do a hip-hop influenced track, then that's the SHINee sound. If they produce a country album, that's a SHINee sound. It does not matter. As long as Onu, Taemin, Key, and Minho are involved, it will still have the SHINee sound. And it's funny enough, in interviews and things like that, SHINee seems to think that this album is not that innovative and that they haven't experimented that much. So in their minds, it's not that much of a diversion from their usual stuff anyway. And by the way, Don't Call Me slaps is a great song. I will admit the music video was a little chaotic for my taste, but that doesn't mean I really like it any less. All 9 songs on the album are great, actually. My favorite song changes with each time I listen. It's just really high quality. Right now, I think I'm really enjoying Kiss Kiss and Body Rhythm, but as I said, the whole album is great. And I'll be honest, I have long hoped that SHINee would produce a banger like this. I love this type of song, and with SHINee's vocals, I think it's perfect. I hope it goes viral. I hope everyone in the world gets it stuck in their heads. I'm grateful that SHINee chose this song to be their title track. And above all, I'm grateful that they came back again to show the music industry how it's done. So that's basically my history of being a K-pop fan. Of course, it's not an exhaustive history. And that's also my views and opinions of SHINee's recent comeback. I love it. I think it's great. If you haven't had the opportunity to listen to their album, I would highly recommend doing so. And I think that you would really enjoy it. To me, if you're an English speaker and you don't know Korean, lyrics really only play a small part in the enjoyment of a song. And not focusing on the lyrics, I think, allows you to be able to focus on other things in the song. So there's a lot of details and stuff to this music that I really enjoyed this go around. But anyway, that's all for this video. I wasn't originally planning to do this video this week. I was going to do something else, which I will bump to next week. But I just wanted to talk about these things while they were still on my mind and still on my heart. I think that SHINee has produced a great album. Their title track is great. And like I said, I'm very grateful. I'm happy as a fan that this is something that's happened and that they're still going and still going strong. And I hope you all have a great weekend. And I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.